Number 10. The platypus. You might think you have seen some weird things at a 3 a.m. Walmart run, but nothing compares to the absolute fever dream that is the platypus. For decades, the entire scientific community of Europe was convinced this animal was a prank, a literal fake news story. In 1799, a dead specimen was shipped from Australia to the British Museum. The top biologists looked at it and immediately reached for the scissors. They actually tried to find the stitches. They were convinced that some prankster down under had sewn a duck's beak onto a beaver's body just to mess with the pompous British elites. And honestly, can you blame them? The platypus looks like God hit randomized on the character creation screen. It lays eggs like a reptile, produces milk like a mammal, but sweats the milk out of its skin because it doesn't have nipples. It has a beak that can detect electric fields. It is basically a biological Swiss Army knife designed by a toddler. But here is the dark twist that makes this goofy duck beaver terrifying. It is one of the few venomous mammals on Earth. The males have a spur on their hind legs that delivers a cocktail of toxins. It won't kill you, but it causes pain so excruciating that morphine doesn't even touch it. Victims have described the pain as immediate and sustained torture. So the British scientists were laughing at a fuzzy little Franken animal, not realizing it was packing a hidden switchblade in its boot. It took nearly a century for everyone to agree it was real. Just because something looks like a joke doesn't mean it can't ruin your week. Number 9. Rogue waves. For centuries, old sailors would sit in dimly lit taverns and tell stories about the hole in the ocean. They described waves so big they blotted out the sky. Walls of water that appeared out of nowhere in perfectly calm seas, smashed ships to splinters, and vanished. Scientists and oceanographers sat back in their comfortable dry offices and laughed. They called it nautical folklore. The math simply didn't add up. According to their linear models of the ocean, a wave that is 100 feet tall shouldn't exist. It was statistically impossible. They told the sailors to lay off the rum. Then came New Year's Day, 1995. The Dropner oil platform in the North Sea was minding its own business. Instruments were recording the sea state. Suddenly, out of the darkness, a single wave rose up. It was 84 feet tall. For context, that is like a 7-story apartment building deciding to slap you in the face. It slammed into the rig with force that shouldn't be possible. The sensors confirmed it. The myth was real. We now know these are called rogue waves. They happen when smaller waves sync up perfectly to create a monster. And the scary part? They happen all the time. Right now, there is likely a 100-foot wall of water moving through the ocean, completely invisible to radar until it is too late. It is a sobering reminder that the ocean doesn't care about our statistical models. It just wants to eat us. Number 8. Mountain gorillas. This one sounds ridiculous today. You can see a gorilla at almost any zoo. You have seen King Kong. You know what a gorilla is. But go back to the early 19th century. To the Western world, the gorilla was a cryptid. It was in the same category as Bigfoot, the Yeti, or a polite person at the DMV. It was a myth. Explorers brought back stories from Africa about hairy wild men with immense strength who lived in the trees. The scientific community in London and Paris rolled their eyes. They assumed these were just exaggerated stories about chimpanzees or baboons. They thought the explorers were just trying to sell more books. It wasn't until 1847 that an American missionary and anatomist named Jeffries Wyman got his hands on a skull. He realized this wasn't a human, and it definitely wasn't a chimp. It was a massive, bone-crushing primate. Think about that for a second. In 1847, we had already invented the telegraph. We had steam trains. We were fairly advanced. And yet, an entire species of massive, 400-pound muscle tanks was hiding in the jungle, totally unknown to science. It makes you wonder what else is hiding out there. If we could miss a 400-pound ape until the mid-1800s, maybe we are missing something in the deep ocean today. Or maybe Bigfoot is just really, really good at hide and seek. Number 7. The City of Troy. If you slept through high school English class, here is the recap. The Iliad is a famous epic poem by Homer. It tells the story of the Trojan War. Wooden horse, Brad Pitt in a skirt, you get the idea. For thousands of years, historians treated the Iliad like we treat Harry Potter. It was a great story, but obviously fiction. There was no Achilles, there was no Hector, and there certainly was no city of Troy. It was just a cool setting for a story about angry gods. Enter Heinrich Schliemann. He was a wealthy German businessman with a lot of money and a childhood obsession with the Iliad. He believed every word of it was true. In the 1870s, he went to modern-day Turkey. He literally used Homer's poem as a treasure map. The experts mocked him. They said he was chasing ghosts. He started digging. And then he hit a wall. A literal stone wall. He didn't just find Troy. He found that there were 9 different cities built on top of each other over thousands of years. He found gold, jewelry, and massive fortifications. He proved that the myth was a real place. However, there is a dark humor to this success story. Schliemann wasn't an archaeologist. He was a fanboy with a shovel. He was so impatient to find the Troy from the poem that he used dynamite to blast through the upper layers. He actually blew up the real Troy to find the older, less interesting ruins underneath. That is like burning down the Louvre to see if there is a cool painting behind the drywall. But hey, at least he proved the haters wrong. Number 6. Ball lightning. Imagine you are sitting in your living room. Suddenly, a glowing orb of blue light, about the size of a grapefruit, floats through your closed window. It hovers over your coffee table, buzzing like an angry hornet, and then explodes with the force of a stick of dynamite. If you told a scientist this happened to you in 1960, they would have recommended a psychiatrist. They would say you were hallucinating. Lightning strikes down, it doesn't float around like a lost balloon. But reports kept coming in. Pilots saw them in cockpits. People saw them in basements. Finally, in 2012, Chinese researchers accidentally captured one on a high-speed camera and a spectrograph. They confirmed it. It exists. We still don't fully understand how it works. Some theories say it involves vaporized silicon from the soil burning in the air. Others suggest it's a microwave bubble. But here is the kicker. It often ends with a bang. Reports describe it exploding with enough force to shatter windows and scorch walls. Think about how terrifying that is. We have split the atom. We have put a remote-controlled car on Mars. But we still can't explain why nature sometimes decides to throw a floating fireball into your kitchen. It is a reminder that the universe is still very good at keeping its secrets. Number 5. The Coelacanth. This is the ultimate zombie story. Paleontologists knew this fish well. They had fossils of it dating back 400 million years. They knew exactly when it went extinct, 66 million years ago. It died out in the same asteroid strike that killed the dinosaurs. It was gone. Case closed. Fast forward to 1938. Marjorie Courtney Latimer is looking through a pile of fish caught by a trawler in South Africa. She spots a weird blue fin. She drags the heavy, smelly thing back to her museum. It was a coelacanth, alive, fresh. This isn't like finding a rare beetle. This is like walking into your backyard and finding a T-Rex eating your rose bushes. This fish looks almost identical to its ancestors from 66 million years ago. While mammals took over the world, invented the wheel, and created TikTok, this thing just kept swimming. The locals didn't think it was a big deal. They called it gombessa. They knew about it for years. They just didn't eat it because it tastes like oil-soaked cardboard and gives you diarrhea. So, while science was writing its obituary, this fish was just chilling in the deep ocean, probably laughing at us. It proves that extinct is just a label we use when we stop looking hard enough. Number 4. Germs. For the vast majority of human history, we had no idea why we got sick. The leading theory was miasma. Basically, people thought that bad air or foul smells caused disease. If you smelled a sewer, you would catch the plague. In the 1840s, a doctor named Ignaz Semmelweis noticed something disturbing. In his hospital, women delivered by doctors were dying at a massive rate. Women delivered by midwives were fine. He realized the doctors were doing autopsies on dead bodies, then walking straight to the delivery room without washing their hands. He suggested that maybe, just maybe, there were invisible, cadaverous particles on their hands killing the patients. He told them to wash their hands with chlorine. The death rate dropped instantly. You would think he would be a hero. Nope. The medical community was offended. They said, "Gentlemen's hands are clean." They mocked him. They fired him. He eventually had a mental breakdown and died in an asylum, beaten by guards. He was right. We just couldn't see the monsters yet. Bacteria and viruses are the ultimate invisible enemy. Right now, there are more bacteria on the skin of your hand than there are people on planet Earth. You are a walking planet for invisible bugs. And for thousands of years, we called anyone who believed in them crazy. Number 3. Stones that move. Death Valley, California. It is the hottest place on Earth. A flat, dry lake bed called the Racetrack Playa. For almost a century, visitors noticed something spooky. There were heavy rocks, some weighing nearly 700 pounds, scattered across the flat dirt. Behind them were long trails dragged into the ground. It looked like the rocks had walked, but no one ever saw them move. They didn't move in the wind. They didn't move when people pushed them. They just moved. Theories went wild. Some said it was magnetism. Some said it was pranksters. Of course, the History Channel probably said it was aliens. It was a genuine, impossible mystery. Finally, in 2014, scientists decided to stop guessing and start spying. They put GPS trackers on the rocks and set up time-lapse cameras. They waited. It turns out the answer is a bizarrely specific set of conditions. In winter, a thin layer of water floods the plain. Overnight, it freezes into a window pane, thin sheet of ice. When the sun comes up, the ice breaks into floating panels. A light breeze pushes the ice sheets, and the ice sheets push the rocks. It is basically nature playing curling. It sounds simple now, but for 100 years it was proof that the desert was haunted. It shows that sometimes the answer isn't magic. It's just really, really specific physics. Number 2, time crystals. This sounds like something Thanos would put in a gauntlet. If you mentioned time crystals 10 years ago, physicists would have told you to stop reading sci-fi novels. Crystals, like salt or diamonds, are patterns that repeat in space. Atom A, then atom B, then atom A, repeated over and over. A time crystal is a state of matter that repeats a pattern in time. Here is the analogy. Imagine a bowl of Jell-O. You tap it, and it jiggles. Eventually, friction stops it. That is normal physics. A time crystal is like tapping the Jell-O, and it jiggles forever, switching between patterns without using any energy. Now, strictly speaking, it doesn't break the laws of thermodynamics. It can't do work like a perpetual motion engine, but it definitely bends the rulebook until it snaps. In 2016, researchers actually built them in a lab. Google even put one inside their quantum computer recently. We have created matter that ticks indefinitely. We don't really know what to do with them yet, but usually, when humans find a way to hack physics, things get interesting. Stay tuned. Number 1. Black holes. It is hard to believe now, but the smartest man in history thought these were fake. In 1916, a guy named Carl Schwarzschild used Einstein's own math to prove that if you crushed enough mass into a small enough point, gravity would become infinite. It would create a tear in space-time that nothing, not even light, could escape. Einstein looked at the math and said, "Nice numbers, Carl, but reality doesn't work that way." He thought nature would have a fail-safe. He was wrong. Black holes are very real. They are the most violent things in existence. If you fell into one, you wouldn't just die. You would undergo spaghettification. The gravity at your feet would be so much stronger than the gravity at your head that you would be stretched into a long, thin noodle of subatomic particles. In 2019, we finally took a picture of one. It wasn't just big. It was a monster with the mass of 6.5 billion suns. It is sitting there, in the dark, eating light itself. It is the ultimate impossible thing. A place where time stops, space breaks, and our understanding of the universe goes to die. So, sleep tight.